Good evening, everybody. We're coming at you again today. This is Brother Jamala, aka Brother Soldier 4D. And we've been talking about lessons that concerns self-hatred. Today we will resume part 2 of that lesson, and it's going to continue with self-hate, a little bit on self-love, and then the love dynamic as it collides and intersects with the Black African Church. First, we've basically discussed that much of Black African self-hate is socialized by negative images about about Africans through media, churches, schools, and those closest to us. Our knowledge and experience of historical colonization, chattel, and mental slavery is a battlefield within our minds and the minds of our developing children. We already discussed some examples of this, which you can review on the previous topics in our previous lessons. There is a Telegram channel that you can tune in to for the narrative of these lessons, and that I have not given a link to that. I will try to get that to you guys ASAP. So let's continue by defining self-hatred as a way of thinking that alienates or separates us from the love of seeing ourselves as a positive, productive, and powerful people compared to all other races and nations. If we continue to make the mistake of allowing other races to overtake and re-educate, redefine, reculture, and instill their own values in our youth, then our appetites and desires will also change to serve their economic, social, and political interests to develop, support, and feed their own culture at the expense of losing our own self-love, loyalty, and service to nurture, empower, promote the cause of our own economy, people, and society. In this sense, we betray the trust of our own brothers when we selfishly turn or form alliances with others who don't love, respect, or value us as a people, don't see us as an independent, free-thinking civilization. And at the same time, these alien, what I call wolves, who don't mean well, are feeding, many times they don't mean well, are feeding off of the resources of our land and aligning their pockets while our little ones on the continent and the diaspora suffer needlessly, or they even starve. Our little ones often learn little to nothing positive about any scholarship or contributions to world civilizations prior to and during the times the European arrived on our shores. We look outward as if others have so much more to offer us than we can do for ourselves. Example, I'll give you an example. In the media, in the diaspora, there's a media presentation where a brother was being interviewed, young Black African, and he said that slavery was one of the best things that ever happened to us as a people, and he thanked God for the Europeans coming and delivering the Black Africans from some of the Black Africans from the continent. It was the best thing that they could have ever done. This is what this person said, and I even had a relative to say the same thing to me, and I've heard people say things like this. It's like they're identifying with their oppressor, and to psychologically, it's just pitiful. I don't want to get off the subject here, the topic, but anyway, there is a speech that was given in 1965 by Brother Malcolm X. He's a minister from the from the Nation of Islam. He's deceased now, and he said something that's very striking 60 years ago, and I'll read an excerpt from that speech. He says, you can't hate the roots of a tree and not hate the tree. You can't hate your origin and not end up hating yourself. You can't hate Africa and not hate yourself. And he goes on to say, show me one of these people over here, meaning North America, that has been thoroughly brainwashed and has a negative image of him, of Africa, and I'll show you one that has a negative image of himself. He said, you can't have a positive attitude about yourself and a negative one toward Africa. So even he 60 years ago saw this, and it's still something that we hear just as recent as I've heard this like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago in an interview. So I'm very, very amazed at that kind of stuff, that kind of thinking. Now, our youth should continue. Let me make sure I'm not missing something here, because this is okay. So the purpose of institutions in our African societies is to ever serve its people by safeguarding the minds and best interests of our youth and instilling in them the value of their culture. Now we look at this. Now, point two I want to make on this is we look at the Black African Church and how it relates to that. It's in a special position, has a special mission, unlike any other nation, because its land has been downtrodden, the most downtrodden, exploited and ravaged and undermined compared to all other nations in this world. The war to undermine Africa is a protracted war. So it continues, just continues. So I want to go to the scriptures and point out one of the scriptures we had visited last time when we had this lesson. It was St. John chapter 10, verses 11 to 13. I'm just going to summarize it. I'm not going to quote it straight. But it says, the good shepherd careth for the sheep, but the hireling does not. So when the wolf comes, the sheep see the wolf coming, and the sheep scatter, and the hireling runs away. So the hireling is not a good shepherd. He's just there for a paycheck or whatever, but he doesn't really care. And then if we go to Matthew 7:15, it says, beware of false prophets who come in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are as ravening wolves. So you have an enemy from without approaching like the wolf. You have the enemy from within. That's disguised. He's a deceiver. Then I would like to go further than this. There's one that's even a deeper enemy, but it may not have, this enemy may not have budded yet, meaning that you don't know that it's in the making. And that's a brother that lives with you, that may share the same parents, have the same bloodline, could be a close friend, a best friend, and they have envy. They have some hatred of themselves. They have hatred toward their brother, because you can't love your brother and hate yourself. If you hate yourself, most likely you're going to hate your brother and other people around them. You're going to hate them prospering past you. And then the enemy from without gets together with the enemy from within and bring you down. Have a coup d'etat. Take your job. Take your wife. Now, this is one of the most dangerous traitors of the race. And they can also be dangerous traitors like Judas in the church. They have that murderous spirit. The commandment of God is to love, meaning that it's a continual debt. It says, owe no man anything but to love. It says, owe no man anything but to love. So it's a debt that you're going to never pay off. So if you don't give that, you don't pay that debt, you could continue to pay that debt. You're going to be subject to hate, because there's no room for that in the Christian walk. There's no room for that in the Christian faith. There's no room for that in many of these other faiths, but they do it. And many of these governing officials that run these places that are supposed to protect the people, the pastors are supposed to protect them. Some of them run like the hireling. They see the wolf coming. The good shepherd, those that are good stewards, they won't. You can't buy them. But the ones that they can buy, those are the ones that's going to bring our nation down, our people down. Let's see what our time is. Okay, so I want to make sure I don't get off subject. I'm trying not to preach. Okay, so self-hatred is a way of thinking that alienates or separates us from the love of seeing ourselves powerfully, just like any other race, any other nation. And I won't reinvent the wheel here. Let's see if we can move to this other point that I wanted to make. Now, let's go to the scripture and read this story about in Obadiah, the book of Obadiah. It talks about, maybe I really don't have much time to read. Maybe I'll just read just a little bit of it, but my time is very short, and I'm trying to get this as best I can. It says, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. This is the Esau and Jacob issue, where the descendants of Esau are the Edomites, and the enemy, the outside wolf, came against Jacob, or the tribe of Judah, and the brother Esau put his 2 cents in it and also helped destroy his brother. They didn't even ask for his help, as far as I know. They just said, okay, my brother's being kicked, he's down, so I'm going to go in and get a few kicks and kick my brother while he's down. Blood, same, used to be from the same household. Now they different tribes. I don't care how much we brothers offend each other. If we're in a different tribe, one's Iwi, one's Ashanti. You better come together for the sake of love. Because the God creator, you will answer to that God, and you will answer to your people. If you get cut off, it's your fault. Okay? So the story basically ends up where Judah will be restored. Jacob will be restored. Edom and Edomites and Esau will be cut off. So you reap what you sow is what I'm basically saying. There's no escape. There's no way to get around not loving our brothers. And that does not mean it's just confined to the 4 walls of the church, the Christian church, the Holy Ghost church. It's not just confined to that. It's your whole nation, because every individual is part of the nation. Every individual is part of the race of Black Africans. That's why I had that previous lesson. What is first, your faith or your identity and your race and your people? Because that comes, and then you begin to serve God. And you're not going to be serving God doing your brother wrong. So when you do your brother right, you are serving God. When you do your brother right, you are putting God first, because that's putting his word first. Don't get it twisted, Christian family. I'm a member of it too, but I'm a soldier in it. And I don't intend to allow the devil to take me over and take over my mind like some of these weak-kneed, beggarly type Christian brothers do. So anyway, as Imhotep, the great ancestor, said, man know thyself. So knowledge of self and self-love is our only way out. We will pick up on self-love and a little bit of self-hate in the next lesson. Peace, Love you. God bless.